Welcome to All About Data on Federal News Network. Now your host, Jory Heckman.
Thanks for joining me this week on All About Data, a conversation with chief data officers and the people who are making data work better in government. On today's episode, AI for mission success. We're going to hear an excerpt from a recent ATARC panel I moderated. First up, you're going to hear from Alan Hill, the Chief Information Officer for the Federal Communications Commission.
We have been going through this journey since I joined in August 2022, getting out of the data center, getting rid of our legacy data technologies. It's been a fun journey, fast journey. Got a great team, both government and partners that have been supporting us in this journey. We've had about 1,100 server systems that we've been migrating out. We've gotten over 90% out of the data center now. There's just about 6 to 8 systems, I believe, that's left. And these are our hard systems. These systems that are days that when I used to jam on the keyboard, Solaris, Sybase, old versions of CodeFusion, Java, WebLogic, very outdated. But AI, how's that come into play? Well, one of the things is we don't want to take a lift and shift type approach with these technologies. We need to modernize it. And this is where AI helps us do the reverse engineering, help us understand the business logic, because we want to move to technologies that are in the cloud and native. And so we don't want to do much bolt-on type approaches of massive changes to the existing architecture. We need to move to a new architecture. So we've been doing that for the past year and a half. We're in our last, this is the very deliberate, slow crawl, looking at everything. You know, darnest things can trip you up, you know, from the Java where you have old libraries and things like that. How do you convert it to newer ones and things like that? So AI helps us with that. I could talk about a whole bunch of use cases and how we've used it. I know we got lots of great questions, and I'll go over to our next panel.
Jim, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, Jim Palumbo, Deputy CIO for Naval Facilities. Very similar. So I'll just do a quick overview of what's similar to what you just heard. Same thing. We have the NAVFAC IT Center out at Port Hueneme. Up until a few years ago, traditional big rooms of servers, managing all of our applications. We're probably a little bit behind in regards to that transition over to the cloud, but we're working it aggressively. The problem is a lot of those legacy systems that even some of the COTS kind of ventured off a little bit in regards to how we approached it compared to industry. And then there was some homegrown stuff that we're working as well. So going through the exact same challenges, you can't do the lift and shift. You got to kind of figure out the particulars for it, for each of those. Specific to NAVFAC, some of the challenges, I was kind of talking this morning to the group in regards to the facilities we have range from being built right now to more than 100 years ago. And each of those facilities were largely from concept to design to build were done as individual projects. And so the challenge that we have now, where you start to have control systems, you have adversaries who are going after control systems. How do you bring together all of that data, analyze it, and be able to present a singular picture to Navy leadership in regards to what the issues are, what it means from a potential situation with an adversary and impacts they could have on the mission. So, that's a particular area that we're looking at from an AI perspective.
Hartman.
Awesome. So in legacy systems, and I heard several things that were mentioned there. Some of the things we have feeding information that's happening with managing the soldiers in our organization, it's still green text on a black screen. So that's true legacy. So ForceCom, we're 750,000 people. primarily in the U.S., which is all the states and territories. And ForceCom, we have this range of skills, or range of knowledge. We've got young 17, 18-year-olds up to people in their 50s. We've got people with their GED all the way up to folks with their PhD. And I'll say some of the most innovative folks are some of those young 19, 20-year-olds that not burdened by decades of knowledge of why we were doing things the way they were, and which is great because we want to be able to solicit those ideas. But as we're looking at how we use AI in different processes, not everybody we have in ForceCom is on a computer every day, but the logistics systems, how they record what's happening with the maintenance on vehicles or maintenance on weapon systems, being able to automate that, be able to ingest that, moving not just to predictive systems, but going to anticipatory. So, hey, I don't just tell me I'm going to need these maintenance items. Go ahead and order it and have it at the depot so that when it's needed, it's right there on hand. That would be completely awesome. And largely looking for small efficiencies. If I can save 10 minutes for each of my 750,000 people, that starts to turn out to real numbers. And so, yeah, we see lots of opportunities, want to make sure that we can get efficiencies, make things available. Oh, and by the way, when I've got those young, innovative 19, 20-year-olds, how do I make sure they're getting the right foundational skills so that as they progress in their careers, whether they stay in the military or not, they're able to actually apply those things. So what does that mean? If they're asking a GPT to write the document, write the award, wherever else, they may not have those skills. And I haven't figured out what that right threshold is. So I give it to everybody, make people have all the efficiency right now. Cool. That's good. Do I have some sort of threshold? Like, show me you've written 3 paragraphs with appropriate use of the Oxford comma, and now you can have GPT access. We're not sure, but look forward to hearing what the rest of the group's looking at.
Over to you. I mean, zooming out from the industry perspective, where do you see the public sector heading in terms of AI?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Paradome. So, I've talked to dozens of sort of chief AI officers of agencies, chief information officers, chief technology officers, and I think I can kind of abstract what I hear into 3 problems that they face in implementing artificial intelligence. One is centralizing data. This is a multi-decade problem now, but getting access to all the right data at the right time is hard. 2 is building the solutions at scale. So, you don't want to procure each solution individually. I was just talking about this with Alan. You want to have solutions that are that scale across the organization. You don't want to spend a ton of money on each siloed solution. And 3 is, how do you empower the leaders, the chief information officers, the chief technology officers, to have a view over the entire organization's use of artificial intelligence. You want to look at accuracy, you want to look at cost, you want to look at usage. And when a new model comes out, you want to be able to plug it into all of the use cases across the organization and not, pay each contractor individually to update their use case. So it's these 3 problems broadly: data integration, building across the organization, and having one place, one touch point to monitor and update your systems across the organization. That's what we do at Paradome. Fundamentally, we're a builds command and control center for artificial intelligence. We dramatically reduce the time involved and the cost involved in building, deploying, monitoring, and updating artificial intelligence for federal agencies by creating one integrated development environment, one place where you could build with AI, like with Lego blocks, and then monitor and update the use cases across the organization. So that's what we do, and those are the problems we try to address.
Well, going back to the title of today's panel, how can AI technologies help federal agencies such as yours optimize decision-making, improve mission-critical outcomes, and get to those outcomes better, faster, cheaper?
Okay, yep, I'll go ahead. So I'll focus on our maintenance side of the house. So building on what I mentioned earlier, whole range facilities, whole range from modern to very antiquated and patched together. Some like the previous office building I worked in was a open bay facility that they transitioned on the cheap into an office facility. So all kinds of HVAC and infrastructure issues with it. So from a preventive maintenance perspective, kind of the historical way of doing it, what's the list of facilities and systems that you have? Start from one, go down to Z all the way to the end and start over again. And you're never going to catch up with that with the number of systems. So that, and then going back to the data piece that you brought up, there are just various data pools, data puddles that are involved when it comes to each of those facilities and the types of systems and all that. So how do you curate that? How do you bring it all together in order to come up with a something resembling a true predictive maintenance posture where you can focus in on, hey, what are the facilities, what are the systems, one, that are truly at risk, and two, are most critical to the mission in some way, shape, or form. That might be at risk of failure, but it's not important to the mission. I can inform that decision making and leaders can accept some risk there, or it's important to the mission, but we've got a level of confidence that the systems aren't going to fail in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to put off that preventive maintenance for a period of time. So that's one of the big challenges that we face is, again, kind of that this potpourri of facilities, potpourri of systems, and then the various puddles and ponds of data and information that's been collected over decades regarding each of those systems and facilities. How do you bring that together and actually start to inform that maintenance decision making so we can really focus our limited resources, both from a personnel perspective, but also money and logistics perspective on truly what's at risk and what's most important to the mission.
So I'll throw out for Army, we've got 7 data platforms that are ingesting information from all of the hundreds of systems of record out there. And it's a many-to-many relationship. So the systems of record feed some data to some data platforms and maybe duplicated or other data to other data platforms. But that's okay. It's getting better. And with any of those data platforms or across the combination of those, we can create data products, we can integrate data products, we can provide those dashboards for decision makers where they can see where maintenance is happening, where different aspects are. The biggest piece that's, in addition to being able, I'll say, so it's nice, we can actually see closer to real time, here's a real perspective out there. But it's also highlighting where people have been fudging the numbers. I don't know about your organization, but occasionally, some people have I'll say a rose-tinted glasses when they're reporting the level of readiness that their soldiers have, or how well their vehicles have been maintained. Now, by being able to pull from the system's record, we're actually able to say, no, this is what it really is. Here's how these 3 different systems that tracked various pieces were. So tell us the truth. Tell us where things actually are, because we're making decisions and you can see that compiled, aggregated, analyzed data that we're using to make those decisions. So if you're putting in bad information, now you know how it's getting displayed to decision makers and what bad decisions or poor things that might occur if you don't go and correct what you're doing with the inputs. So it's changing the perspective of leaders at multiple different levels. And it's a culture shift. If people have been doing the same thing for 20 plus years when they first came in and now they're leading a battalion or brigade, saying like, it's okay to say that I'm not perfect. I need to be honest about it, because the honesty and the accuracy is better than a paper view of I'm just okay.
So I'm going to take a different spin on this. Being a guy that used to jam on the keyboard, our architecture that we've been so used to using for years, it's out of date. We got a change of how services are delivered. I'm a believer of anything as a service. Government does not do a good job of keeping technology up to date. And as me and Greg talked about, AI's got to be infused in our architecture. We cannot take 6 months, year, 2 years to deliver systems. My team, I'm challenged in delivery in 30 days. We can take, cloud business model is a great business model, and it's evolved. It used to be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, serverless environment, infrastructure as a code. We need to be able to take business needs and quickly deliver to citizen services, even for warfighting capabilities, quickly. We got to move at the speed of technology. We also got to build our compliance in what we do. Should not have to be going out there, is it 508 compliant? It's built in. Security compliant, built in. Worrying about libraries being out of date. All that can be delivered today real time. There's technologies already out there. We just got to change how we do business. And that is a just-in-time delivery and use the Liberty Mutual, pay for what you use. And that's important. We have a time and materials mentality in our acquisitions, or a fixed price mentality. And the thing is that we don't have an infinite budget. And so we need to make sure that we're similar to, you can choose how much you turn your electricity on and what you use in your house or your water. The same should be with how we deliver services, IT. Our networks and how they run, very inefficient. We're paying for massive amounts of pipes that we don't use at all. We're having security tools put in place that are trying to guard these pipes, and we need to build our networks so they're automated, they're compliant, and they adjust to business needs. The same for our infrastructure that's delivering the services. The manual process of going in and validating compliance, we don't need to do that anymore. We can change our architecture so it comes compliant immediately, that nothing gets on the network unless it's meeting those. And to me, that's just a bar. That's just the minimum needs. We have bad actors out there that are getting smarter. They're using more advanced tools, and we got to be able to posture and move at the speed of technology to fight them, because we're responsible for protecting the national security and the citizens' data. And to do that, we got to change how we've been doing business that we've been stuck in for the past several decades.
I just want to underscore some of the points I think that Alan is making. And I want to emphasize how much of a transformation this is. We're used to a paradigm where public sector leaders pay millions of dollars for multi-year and sometimes multi-decade development of information technology, of IT. We have to get out of this mindset. AI is not IT in the best ways possible. It simply doesn't take years to develop AI applications. It takes years to develop the foundational models, but the application layer is actually quite easy. It takes, in some cases, days, weeks, maybe months for hard cases. And the way in which you develop AI applications is a lot of iteration and experimentation. It's impossible to intelligently design the requirements before you actually start experimenting. So what this means is we need to get out of this sort of box of putting forth requirements and then paying contractors for their time or for achieving certain benchmarks. And instead, we need to get more into the mindset of having folks build things and then using them and paying for a transaction fee or a usage fee or a license fee. And this just so happens, in my view at least, to be much better for agencies because it's more flexible. There's less vendor lock-in. Again, you should expect a much faster turnaround period. It should be a much more competitive environment, and there's much less sort of upfront costs. You're not investing millions of dollars in a solution you're only investing in solutions that you're actually using at scale.
Well, to your point about this involving experimentation, this requiring some level of tinkering to kind of get to where agencies need to be with the technology, I think it's worthwhile to ask you all just where do you see this low-hanging fruit for AI and all flavors of automation? Where do you see those opportunities for low risk but high reward experimentation?
I'll talk about what we did at FCC. Problem statement put in front of us. We have attorneys going through tens of thousands of comments and deciphering it, reviewing it in a manual process. Very inefficient. When an attorney sitting there reviewing the same comment 10,000 times, that is not a efficient way to use the person's time, and nor is it an efficient way for us to spend taxpayers' dollars. So challenged my team. We went out there and looked at multiple different types of AI solutions that were out there, understanding the business needs of the Bureau that we were supporting, working with them collaboratively, working with the partners out there of saying, what are the capabilities of the tools that you have? Fast forward, talk about the 30 days. Contract kickoff on a Thursday. The following Thursday, they were up and operational. And what would have taken 4,300 plus hours to do was able to be done in 159 hours. That is the kind of capabilities we have at our hands today. We're able to use those. And so it makes that attorney much more efficient, and it's given them her insight of things they would never have known. Example, this was generated by a bot, this comment. This was generated by a human. This came from this particular organization, or this came from this particular country. Those are informations that they didn't have previously just looking at the comment. So it helps them to make informed decisions in how they do things at a much faster, but they have a broader set of information data points that they could use. They're also able to track it in a much more efficient manner and provide recommendations on how they handle that requirement. And so that, to me, is where we need to be in all our use cases of decreasing manual processes, decreasing the time it takes to deliver, and also bringing efficiency of our government staff and our partners that are supporting what we do in delivering federal services to the citizens.
That was Alan Hill, the Chief Information Officer for the Federal Communications Commission. Special thanks to ATARC for letting me moderate this panel. You can find more data coverage on federalnewsnetwork.com. I'm Jory Heckman, and thanks for listening to this episode of All About Data.
Thanks for listening to All About Data on Federal News Radio, part of Federal News Network. You can listen to this episode and past episodes anytime in your favorite podcast app. Search for All About Data on Podcast One, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows.